You had a cute little. Oh my goodness. Hi. I'm so excited that
Hi.
you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
Um,
excited to dive into everything.
oh my goodness. Me frickin' too, especially because I feel like I'm finally coming out of the closet about my like mystical woo-ness and things of that nature. And so is my audience. And I always talk about how like I'm that gap. I bridge the gap for people where it's like we got one side of the woo where you're like, whoa, that's too woo. Like I can't relate. And then there's like the science side, and that's also like very masculine and very informative. And it's fun. It's fun for both. But like I'm like that gap where it's like, you're kind of getting your toes wet. And I like to bring people onto this podcast that can also help bridge that gap. So I'm really excited that you're here. And the audience is probably listening and being like, what the fuck? Like, what are you guys talking about to talk about? But before I ever jump into episodes, I ask the same question to everyone, and then we'll do the introductions and we get into all the mystic.
Okay,
But
great.
the podcast is called Healing to Happy. What are you currently healing your way to happy on?
Oh my gosh. That's a great question, first of all. Second of all, I feel like I am on a constant journey of self-trust and continuously building that, especially with the work that I do. Trusting myself and my intuitive nudges and guidance that I get is like a huge part of my everyday life with this work. So that is something that I am constantly working on is building that self-trust, keeping promises to myself, making sure that I am showing up every day for myself in positive ways. And that's my biggest thing right now for sure.
I feel like that's so relatable, especially in like this line of work as a healer or a
Yes.
helper or a coach or a mentor or anything. You're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I trusting? Like, this is a lot. Like, let me see
Totally.
how it goes.
Yeah. It's so real.
It is, it is. And so, Jackie, your gift to this world. Tell us who you are, what you do, what your magic is.
Yes. So I am Jacque Hobrick. I have been working professionally as a psychic medium and aura reader for around 7 years. I have always been extremely intuitive since I was around 5 years old. That's the first time I remember actually seeing energy with my physical eyes around someone and running to my mom and being like, why am I seeing colors around people? Like, what's going on? And she was like, first of all, don't tell anyone that this is happening. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? And she told me, that it was auras that I was seeing and energy that I was seeing. And so I didn't really, do anything with my gift around that age. Obviously, I was very young. And around 12 years old, I actually became very, very chronically ill and was getting chronic migraines. I was, my immune system was just completely shot. So if I wasn't down with a migraine for the day, I had strep throat or I had the flu or some other, random thing. I was in and out of the hospital system a lot from about 12 years old to 19 or 20. And then when I finally recovered from my chronic illness, I started to wonder if I could really take these abilities to the next level and help people with them. So I began doing practice readings for friends and acquaintances and people that I kind of knew but didn't know everything about, and was picking up on extremely accurate information in these readings and kind of freaked myself out, honestly, at first. And then I got invited to start doing readings at this local crystal shop for $15. I was doing aura drawings for people. So I would draw people's energy colors and things like that and tell them what I was picking up on. And then I became booked out for like 2 months doing that. And I was like, okay, this is real. I'm actually able to help people with this gift. And over time, it naturally evolved to picking up on psychic information. And then people's past loved ones were coming through during these readings. And my abilities just kind of continued to evolve. I moved into the online space around 2016 and then started taking it pretty seriously around 2018. Um, and during that time, my abilities evolved from getting most of my, aura information from my physical eyes to actually getting it clairvoyantly. So in my mind's eye is where I'm getting this information, which has allowed me to do readings over Zoom. I can do readings for people that are, halfway across the world. And here we are today. So I've done lots of different types of readings. I've done house cleansings for people, mediumship stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much the story.
Oh my God, you're so cool. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited for this conversation.
Yay, thank you.
I love this so much. And it's such a different realm, right? Because I can think of as a
Yes.
kid, like if that happened and your mom's like, don't tell anyone, you're like, okay, fine. Like, I'm just gonna go play soccer now.
Right.
Like, I don't fucking know. And it's like everyone's dancing around in colors though. Like, how do I show up for this?
Mhm.
So going through that path and then, realizing, oh, this is useful and this benefits people. And I've been going to psychics. My family, it's just like, it's a very normal thing on my dad's
Yeah.
side of the family. And so I grew up in that realm, but I have dated
Nice.
plenty of people where they're like, I think you might be a little bit crazy. And I
Oh
was like, I
yeah.
don't think so. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, dating is so fun as a psychic. That's something that people don't really talk about is like the dating world when you're a psychic is like a whole other ball
Oh
game.
my
But
God, I want to
I
get
feel
into
you.
that. I want to
Yeah,
get into
I hear
that.
you.
So let's break down what is aura, like the colors. Like when someone hears that, they're like, what the pickle? So what is the
Sure.
colors around us and what is our aura?
Yeah, so auras are about a 3 to 5 foot sort of energetic field that surrounds people specifically. Other things do like emit energy because everything in our world is created from atoms, which are just energy at their core. So an inanimate object like a cup will also have a little bit of energy around it, but it's not as much as something that is living, like a person, a dog, other animals, things like that. So when I'm doing readings, what I'm seeing is this energetic field that surrounds us all. And based on the color that you're resonating with, or the frequency that you're resonating at, it corresponds to certain colors. So for example, if somebody comes in to get a reading and their first layer is like very green, which is kind of your energy, they are probably somebody that's creative or does some sort of creative work for a living. It's people that are empathic, people that are more towards like the healer side of things. So that's kind of what I use to explain auras at the beginning, just because, when you break it down, everything in our world is made of energy, and human beings will resonate at a specific frequency that correlates to colors. So I can pick up on personality traits, things that the person may be going through in the moment, psychic gifts, spiritual things like that, and other blocks in their energy. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So is it kind of like, is it based on their mood, the season that they're in, or is it your aura is what you were born with? Like, I've just been born green. Like, is that something how that works? Or is it something
So
that your adaptive strategies or things of that nature from your life kind of kick in?
yeah, so from what I have seen doing readings for the last several years is most people will have the first 1 to 2 layers of their energy will be their personality layers. So it really encompasses like who that person is at their core. And those layers don't often change unless you go through a massive, transformation, you go through major loss, you go through major healing, or something like that. Something that really flips your world on its head will usually change the energy of your first 1 or 2 layers. But the outer layers, which can be, anything from like 3 to 4 extra layers outside of your personality layers, those are more of your emotional state or things that you're currently going through. So those are constantly changing. So the first couple of layers don't often change, daily or even like yearly. Usually they'll only change every once in a while, but those outer layers are constantly changing based on things that we're going through in our daily lives.
It's like your mood ring.
Yeah, it totally is. In high school, I was able to see people's energies while I was like walking down the hallway, and I called it my built-in mood ring for people because I could tell, what
You're
was
like, I'm
going
not
on with
talking to
them.
you today. And then
Yes,
someone's
I was
doing
like,
it, like,
stay away from me.
And so how can someone use this like in their lives if they're like, okay, this sounds interesting. How can an aura reading benefit them?
So a lot of times when people come to see me, it's because they are either feeling like they're in an energetic funk, or maybe they are having some like physical manifestations of things, like they're feeling really tired, or having like weird health things pop up that they're not really sure how to fix. And in my opinion, everything starts at an energetic level. So if we can sort of adjust the energy, we can prevent physical, illness or things like that from really going too far, or getting worse. So when people come to see me, it's usually when they're feeling like they're in an energetic funk, or I give them some sort of advice on how to give themselves more energy based on their aura colors. Like for green people, creative outlets are so huge for you guys, because that is like your soul food. That is that main energy layer. And if you don't have a creative outlet, a lot of times you can feel really run down, or like physically tired. So when people come to see me for aura readings, it's usually to kind of assess where they're at energetically and see what we can do to either get them back into balance, or what they need, what tools they need to like feel better, energetically.
Mm. And how does that relate to like using the aura for the psychic realm?
Yeah, so when I am doing aura readings, I'm mostly just honing in on what the person needs energetically in that moment. The outer layers, like I was saying, can show us what people are going through in that moment in time. But when I'm doing psychic readings, I'm more so looking at things that are like coming up for them in the future. But if I'm seeing that there's a lot of this color that I associate with transitions or uncertainty, then I may use that, tap into that, and then see what is going on psychically, to kind of help guide, if let's say, for example, somebody's going through a career transition, and I'm seeing this uncertainty energy show up, and then I am hearing clairaudiently that it's about a career transition. I may just segue into that from the aura information that I was getting, and then see if there's anything coming for them career wise, or what they can do to speed up that timeline to bring that career in quicker.
I love that. I mean, it's like a holistic approach. So instead of like
Totally.
going to the bars that have your aura snapshots or whatever the
Yeah,
fuck people are
right.
doing nowadays, it's like, okay, here we have this, we see this, and here's what's coming for you, and here's how you can better clean up your energy a little bit or get more into alignment for that. So that is one, easier for it to happen, and two, you can step into that. I know that's at least anytime I've ever gone to a psychic, it's always been that. It's like, okay, like what is coming for me and how can I get in better alignment for that? And how can I actually listen? Because there are
Exactly.
the times where it's like, and I actually, so when I went through my breakup about 4 months ago, um, after the breakup, obviously you're like desperate. You're like tarot card readings, give me a psychic
Yes.
reading. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I remember one of the readers, she goes, "Stop pulling your fucking tarot cards." And I was like, "How did you know I was doing that?"
Amazing. We love a
God.
good call out like
I
that.
know. And she's like, "Stop it." And I was like, none of this makes sense. I'm so confused. And then she's like, "And honestly, no dating." And I was like, "Do you know I'm a double Libra and what my job is? Like that doesn't make sense to me." Like and I was like, "But also," and she's like, "I mean, you can, but you'll fuck it all up." And I was like, "That's enough information that I need. I'm not touching anyone. Like I'm not, all right, got it." And of course, and I know, and I've spoken to psychics about that. They're like, you can obviously you have free will. You can do whatever the fuck you want. But there's two paths that you can go. Ultimately, you're gonna get to where the end result is meant to be. There's just one way that's easier and there's one way that's complicated.
Exactly.
Take it as you will. But like I've always found psychics and mediums so fucking beneficial and so powerful. And it's so interesting to me when people are like skeptical about it. They're like, I don't know. And I was like, I literally go on these journeys and there's no way these people could know this information about me. There's no way.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they do, because that's my like test, every time I
Oh,
come
yeah.
in, I will take, because I've had some shitty fucking ones too, where you're like, you read that on a cracker. Like, that's not mine. Like, that's not mine. But then there's other ones where it's like so fucking accurate, where I'm like, how could I deny it? Actually, so my dad's side of his family, My aunt, she is also a psychic, and it's so funny. My ex-partner at the time was coming over for dinner, and she had gotten a little bit tipsy and did not ask permission to read his energy. And then all of a sudden, this fucking, and I was like, Licia, you have to ask permission, because he's just
Oh.
looking at me like terrified, because he's like,
Mhm.
he's not a believer in this stuff. Like, he started getting his little toes wet, and obviously dating me, but he's like, how does she know this? And I was like, why would I tell my aunt any of these things? Like, why? And he's like, and he's just like looking at me, like throwing me a life raft. Like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, Licia, like,
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. We love a good spiritual smackdown every once in a while.
it's so funny. It really is funny. Like, I find
Oh
it
man.
it's so cute. Like, it's just like cute. And so
Yeah.
how can people, like, all of these realms, and anyone that's listening to this podcast, it's usually around their relational patterns, dating, things of that nature. How can they start to either reach out to you, or, well, obviously, because we're gonna promote the shit out of you, but how can like this benefit them? Like, you're in that transition, and I really do want to speak to this, not in a desperate way, because there is that point when a breakup happens, or like, I haven't fucking found my person yet, and we kind of like milk that cow way too much. And so, kind of speaking to the how can this benefit them, but how to do it in a healthy way.
Absolutely. The first thing I would encourage people to do, obviously, is getting in touch with their own intuition is a huge thing, because even though you can get readings from me, you're right. You don't want to become kind of codependent on readers for your everyday life sort of choices and things like that. So it's important to get in touch with your own intuition, because you can do this as well. You can turn that knob and like turn that intuition on. But for people that are going through maybe relationship stuff or breakups and things like that, when you do come to get a reading, my biggest thing is, how can we get you energetically aligned with things that are easy that you can do right after you hop off the call with me? It's never going to be something like go spend $500 on crystals or buy this, spell jar or whatever. Like, I shout out to those people that do that, but for me, it's more like, here's how we can ground you. Here's how we can process these emotions that you've gone through. Here's what your spirit guide team is saying you need to kind of pick yourself back up again, so you can bring in somebody that you're aligned with. And I do see, timelines for people of their next partner, if that is part of the reason that they needed the reading, and their team is letting me know that it's okay to tell them. Some people, I see that they're going to be single for a little while, and it's time to work on themselves and kind of rebuild that relationship and that foundation with themselves. But every reading is different. So usually it's just, how do we get you back into alignment, get you feeling good again, and pull you kind of out of this energetic mud that we've kind of sunk in. And then how can we keep that energy level maintained while you are out in the dating scene or trying to find somebody that you're more in alignment with.
I love that. Would we be able to do like a quick one?
Oh
Like,
my
just,
gosh. Yes,
oh my God.
absolutely.
If we can
Oh
like
my
hear.
gosh. Absolutely. So it's interesting. So I'll just do mostly psychic for this. Well, that's not true. Of course, when I say that, I'm like, I'm gonna do mostly psychic. And they're like, well, she needs a couple energy things here. Um, so the first couple things that they're actually telling me before I even pull cards is, um I don't know if you just like gave your voice away or felt like you were giving your voice away a lot in your last relationship, or maybe not sticking up for yourself as much as you needed to. That is going to be a huge theme for you moving forward, is finding and reconnecting to that inner voice and that kind of inner power when you're with a partner specifically. So another thing is, we can do lots of healing on our own, but once we're in a relationship, we're going to get triggered usually no matter what. So one thing that they're bringing up is really trying to reconnect with that inner voice and that inner confidence for yourself. And I do feel like one of the ways you can do that is by using that creative outlet to kind of relearn how to express yourself. Okay. And I don't know if you have something that you do creatively, or that you gave up doing creatively, but I do think that that will kind of help bring that back into alignment, especially for you. That's going to be your biggest thing, is reconnecting to your voice. Oh my God. and the guides show up. So the way I work with psychic readings is I do pull tarot cards, but I don't always go off of the specific meanings of the cards. I usually go off of the colors, obviously, because I do aura readings. I'm very color oriented. And I also look at the people in the cards, numbers, things like that, and go off of what I'm drawn to. This is amazing. Are you like working yourself, not to death, but like this is my Cinderella card that I just pulled, which is it's literally like all work and no play. Please ask people for help. Like ask people for help, speak up for yourself. That's another big thing. But in regards to relationship, oh my goodness. We got the Ace of Winter, which says don't be deterred by challenges along the way. It's a winter card, which can let me know that you're feeling a little bit stuck right now with relationship stuff, which makes sense if you were going through a breakup. And then it says it's important to communicate clearly and accurately. Amazing new ideas that should be implemented. So we have this paired with the release card, both blue throat chakra communication cards. So again, it's like, have you fully worked on releasing this person? Are you ready to do that yet? Are there other things you need to release from this situation? Limiting beliefs, how this person's perspective on things impacted you, or maybe not so nice things that they might have said to you that are still kind of up in your head. The release card is amazing, though. It says, let go of the past, an ending that makes way for new opportunities, time to move on. I mean, I can't make that up. That's like so on point. Let's see what's coming for you now. So those are kind of the ways that you can shift out of this current energy that you're in if you're feeling a little bit stuck and stagnant. One, communication, again, huge for you. Two is going through that release process and really grieving not only the person that you lost, but like who you were in that relationship, I think is also very important too. And let's see what they have. Oh my God. Okay, I love that. Then we have the Three of Spring card, which is coming after the winter card. This actually feels like 2024 around March for you, where things are going to be really rolling. I feel like with career as well. It says plan your next steps with an eye on the long term. Have patience. There are more good things to come. Satisfaction from a job well done. Major butterfly transformational energy and imagery in this card. So I think by this time in March of next year, you're going to be feeling completely different about this situation. And then I just pulled the Ace of Summer, which is new beginnings in love. It literally says, open your heart to love, the beginning of a new intimate relationship, the awakening of psychic abilities or spiritual epiphanies. So after you take the time this winter, it feels like doing some releasing, kind of working on reconnecting to your communication, and its self-expression. Springtime, you're like, okay, I'm ready to start doing this again. And by summer, it feels like new love. The lotus imagery, I mean, the dove is like peace and love kind of imagery and symbolism as well. And it literally says the beginning of a new intimate relationship. So I wouldn't even worry about it right now. It's like by this time, it feels like by this time next year, in the fall, you will have already met someone or met a couple people that you're like, why was I ever with this person that I was with beforehand? I know that seems, far off, and it is. There's some things that need to happen before this person can come in, but how amazing is that they gave you like straightforward things of like, you need to do some releasing, grieving, and then find your voice. And as soon as you do that, boom, you have new people in your life. It's amazing.
I love that.
They showed up for real.
Such a freaking vibe. And it's accurate because like my last relationship, it's those types of relationships, and I don't know if you can relate to this, where you're like, I'm fine where I'm at. Like I had gotten out of a serious relationship, got into that relationship, and not that I wasn't being authentic, I just didn't even know I wasn't using my voice until I was out of it.
And I didn't
Yes.
understand that I was afraid of rocking the boat. That like it was like, oh, like I am very, and this is like anyone that listens to podcasts, I think it's like episode 71 where I interview my best friend. She's like, Laura is just like Laura. Like she's fucking out there. Like she will go through 87 emotions in a day. You have no fucking idea. And she's grounded in everything she does. Like it's not like I'm like out there, but it's like you're actually one of my very best friends said this to me yesterday. She's like, it just takes a very unique human being to know that this is the version of you that we love.
Right.
All of it, because it gives other people permissions to literally be the most eclectic human being on the planet. But in that relationship, it was because my previous relationship had rejected me for being a lot. I then was playing the good girl because that's how it was. And then I also had a separation from my family because I am me. And again, it's triggering to people.
Sure.
And so yeah, a big thing in this little, I called it like the breakup season, was using that voice. And I'm very strong in it now. Like everyone around me knows, they're like, this is the best version of you. Like it's such a fucking vibe.
Love it.
I have just done like a full releasing ceremony of my ex just like 3 weeks ago.
Shut up. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me?
Yeah, like a full
Oh,
like energetic release, like on the beach, like cutting cords, like just did that because I was keeping him alive, being like, are you gonna find out like you made this like the dumbest mistake of your life, and like holding on to that a little bit and then go through that and then finally being like, this is all a choice. And like, you know, a part of my brand is the pre-housewife era. And like I really claimed into my future partner that wouldn't be fair to my future partner if I'm still holding on to this residue of the past. And so went through this
yes.
whole releasing ceremony on the beach, and it was one of the most beautiful experiences.
That is amazing. Also, the person that you end up with is going to love your authentic self and you'll never
Exactly.
feel like you have to hide. So, I love that
Exactly.
they brought that up and getting, reconnected to your self-expression is like I think that's like part of this huge journey for you. So, love that. Don't dim your
Yeah.
lights. Oh my gosh, don't dim it.
This is such a vibe. And that's the benefit of it, where it's like, and anyone listening, it's like it's not this direct 4-step formula of how to find love. It's like,
Right.
hey, I see your blocks. You're doing the right things. Continue doing the right things, and you ultimately get what you want. And it's just those kind of things where you get to one tap into, and that's what I felt like when I was listening to you, where it's like, oh, that intuitive nudge of like, okay, you are on the right track. Like you're doing the right
Right.
thing, you know,
Yes.
other than like, here's the death card and like all the fucking things.
The
That's like,
tower.
exactly. Oh my God. The amount of towers I got like a few years ago, I was like, okay.
Like, what's going on?
No, I love it. What is it like making a transition here, but what's it like being in the energy of everyone's energy all the time? Like you're out there in the world and it's just like everyone's all these colors. Like what does that feel like? Do you turn it off? What is that whole journey like?
Yeah, so when I first began doing this work, I was on all the time. All the time. I was walking through, Marshalls and I would be feeling someone's grandmother behind me. Like, I need to get a message to this person in aisle 2. And I'd be like, I am trying to get like a new tablecloth. Like, leave me alone. So I had to really figure out my own boundaries with spirit and just with, energy in general when I first started doing this work. And I like to kind of compare it to a radio. So, when I'm doing readings, my radio dial is at a, 10. But when I'm going about my day and I'm just trying to be, normal Jacque and go to Target or whatever, I kind of turn it down to around like a 2 or a 3. So I'm still able to get these intuitive nudges or intuitive insights if I need them, but I'm not going through my day, seeing everybody's energy or picking up on people's loved ones, or things like that. It's just more for me to be able to like function, but still get intuitive guidance if I need it. But yeah, that was something that I really struggled with when I first started. And it was something that I had to figure out kind of as I went, because as there's no manual to this stuff. You just have to kind of throw yourself into it and see what works. So for me specifically, I really needed to have those boundaries with spirit just so I could function as like a normal, 20-year-old person. So
Yeah. And how is it like, do you have a psychic that helps you? Like, do you have a healer that helps you, or do you do them on yourself?
Yes. So I have had many mentors over, the time that I've been doing this. And one of the mentors that I'm working with right now, she does a lot of energy work. And I've almost always had somebody that I've been able to go to, because when you're first starting out, it's hard to navigate all of this. And I like to ask crazy questions about things that I'm experiencing. So I had a mentor who actually, she passed away a couple of years ago, but she was my first mentor who I went to, and I asked about house cleansings. I asked about energy. I asked about opening up psychically. And she always talked to me like I was going to do this work. This was before I was doing readings or anything. And she was like, well, when you're doing this work, you'll have to do this, this, and this, or this will be good for you, or whatever. And I was like, you are crazy. Like, I'm not going to be doing this. And then now I'm doing this professionally. So I've always had somebody that has been able to help me energetically balance myself, and also someone that I can go to ask questions to, even at this level, even with this, level of where I'm at now, you still need support. So that's something that I've always had. And I continue to, have mentors and learn and things like that, because it's just, I mean, it's a never ending learning journey.
Yeah. And that's one of the most important things. It's like, you're not doing things alone, especially in this realm. It's
Right.
like, like there's just so many things that I think a lot of people, when they're either in self-development or they are healers or they are psychics or they are in these spaces, it's like, oh, I'm just going to do this on my own, or I'm going to like only rely on my spiritual team. And it's like, actually, there's people in the human realm that need to support you in this, and extending that olive branch actually amplifies what you're here on this
Absolutely.
planet to do. Like it's the collective experience and how you can come together. So that
Yeah,
makes me so happy to
absolutely.
hear.
Yeah, and this work can be kind of isolating and lonely at times, because if you
Yeah.
don't have people in your inner circle that you can talk to or share these experiences with, it can be very lonely, and it can make you feel very isolated. So definitely finding a community or a mentor is hugely important, I feel like.
100%.
Yeah.
For someone that gets a reading and, you know, I'm like thinking back now, when you're like listening, but you're also thinking back to the reading that you just gave me.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's like, are people able to speed up timelines, based on certain choices that they make? Or is it like, this is the definite decision of it's going to take 10 years and sit and wait and learn how to yearn and peace and things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen things shift quickly, especially with people that come in, specifically with relationship stuff. I don't know what it is about our free will with relationships,
Yeah.
but we can really pull in people if we make the conscious decision to commit to our healing or our growth or whatever it is. I've seen timelines speed up very quickly. On the other hand, though, it depends on what it is. There are some things that I've seen where it's just like, this is how it is. There is something that needs to happen in this 5-year time frame before X, Y, or Z can occur. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind. Is you're right, our free will choices can change things drastically either way. And I've seen both. I've seen it speed things up and slow things down.
I can honestly think back to one of the most potent psychic readings that I had about, I want to say like a year ago, maybe. And they had written like so clearly what I needed, like what was going on and all the things. And they're like, but you're going to be in Texas for 2.5 years. And I was like, what? I don't want to. And they're like, because you're going to thrive when you get to Florida. Like all the pieces are going to line up. Like you're going to kick it off. Your business is going to take off, all these kind of things. You need a few more life lessons, da, da, da. And I was like, well, then fuck that. I'm just going to go to Florida. Like, why would I wait 2 years? And
Right.
it was this whole thing. But then me and my partner at that time split up. And then all these other things happened. And here I am now, 2.5 years later, being in Dallas, being like, oh, got it. Like I tried to speed up. I really did. And I remember my best friend sitting there. I put my stuff in storage for a bit. I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to go to Costa Rica. I'm going to go do something. And it all was because I had to find the certain city that I am going to move to now that I didn't even know fucking existed up until my other last relationship, where it's like all of these synchronicities. And now it's like, I'm not even there and I already have events scheduled that I'm speaking at. I'm not even there and I have like all of these clients that are coming in, and it's like, oh, that's my welcome party. And like got it. She was right. And I was trying to jump the timeline, but there was certain things where it was like, I didn't even have the skills, like who I was a year ago, fucking incomparable to who I am now. I didn't even know that this was the realm that I knew I wanted to talk about relationships, but not at the depth of what I'm doing now. It's like, oh, like sometimes we just can't. Like you could, I'm sure, but I wouldn't have had the experiences and I wouldn't have had the things that were 1,000% meant for me.
Isn't it crazy to think back on how much growth we can experience in a year where you're like, you think right now you could, the Florida thing could have like taken off a year ago, but then it's like you look back and you're like, this makes total sense. All of this stuff had to happen. I needed to have this other like foundation for myself to be able to even believe that I deserved X, Y, or Z happening. I think about that all the time. And women are great alchemizers of pain. So like when we go through stuff, I feel like something that is so amazing is that we can take that and just like make it skyrocket ourselves to the next level for whatever it is.
10,000%. That's funny. And the signature program we have is called Alchemy of Love.
Oh my gosh, what?
Like exactly, like we as especially female, like we're just fucking artists at alchemy, especially when you go through a heartbreak. Instead of leaning out, which I don't think anyone ever would in this that's listening to this podcast, at least it's like when you lean fully fucking in, you can, yes, transmute timelines, but like it's always going to propel you forward. Like it literally, you're not going to go backwards. And it's sometimes we do this thing where it's like, and I don't know if you experience this with your clients, but it's like if they get a reading, do they then go, oh, let me, like what I just tried to do, cool, let me just fucking try and control this, then I'm a human fucking realm, and let me somehow maneuver this and somehow bypass any of the pain that they literally just told me I have to go through in order to get the thing that I want. And I was like, well, fuck that. Like, I'm just gonna go and like try and get around it because we want to control life. Like we get a reading and then we're like, okay, then let me control the human realm. And it's like, no, baby girl, that's not what I just said.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Usually, I mean, sometimes people will even bring it up like right after the reading or like during the reading. They'll be like, well, why don't I just do this now? And I have to explain exactly what you just said of like, well, there's lessons that you have to go through before you get to that person or before you get to that career level or, whatever it is. So it's all the time. I mean, it's just human nature, like you were saying, to want to control things. And also having to like give news that it's not the timeline that the person wants is always tough. But trusting in the journey, I think, is the biggest thing, especially when you're getting a psychic reading. You just kind of have to trust that you will end up where you're meant to be. You just have a little bit of a journey to go through first.
yeah, what is that process like where it's like you get a reading and you're like, damn, it's about to be fucking hard for you, mate. Like I wish I was more so in this realm when it was like my early 20s, when like, there was drugs, alcohol abuse, domestic violence, like things like that. I wish I would have gotten a reading just so I could have like, they'd be like, you're about to fucking get in it, girl. Like you are about to be in it for that. And it's like, does that happen? Is that like, yeah, I have two questions on this. So it's like, does that happen where you have to like sit there and like you see it and you're like, oh fuck, babe, like make sure you are well resourced, and like how does that conversation go?
Yeah, so I mean, I just have to prepare people if I'm like things are going to get hard,
Yeah.
offering support and offering tools for people to use while they're going through stuff, and obviously being like, if you need me, email me, call me, text me, like please, like I am here for you. As support, offering that I think is a big thing. But yeah, I mean, if I see something, I have to say what I'm seeing. So I have given bad news before where I'm like, you are not going to get this house that you just, tried to put an offer in on, or this timeline is getting bumped back a little bit. And you just have to be honest. I think that's the biggest thing with this work is I really pride myself on being as ethical as possible. So if I see something, I'm going to say something. But also like I saw my own breakup one time in a reading that I did for the guy that I was dating. And I was like, I have this rule where I don't read for like close family or really, really close friends just because I know too much. But he was going through this career, transition. And I was like, I'll just pull some cards and like, we'll see what happens. I pull some cards and two distinct paths show up. And one of them was for me. I could feel it intuitively. And one of them is for him. So I saw that he got the job. So I'm like, you get the job. This is amazing. And the bottom path is like, we are going through a breakup in like 3 months. And at that point, it's like, what do? You just have to kind of like go through it, because there was obviously something within that time frame that I needed to still learn from him. So with that being said, I don't do that anymore. Never again. But it was something that I just had to be like, shoot, I am gonna have to just kind of forget that I saw this and, go through whatever this chunk of time is that I need to be with him still. So it's tough. It gets tough sometimes, but it's important, I think, to just be honest with people when they come to get a reading for me, and I see if they're going through a hard time, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. And how is it in those moments? Because I haven't gotten a reading in like the last 2 years where it's been like you're going through a hard time, because I've only like in those years got super into this. But for someone that's going through that, yourself included, when you're like, okay, I know a breakup's coming in 3 months, how do you hold the hope then, where it's like, okay, I'm supposed to like believe in something better and all these kind of things, and I'm going to hold the hope that there's somehow a lesson in these 3 months, and I'm going to hold the hope that all these kind of things, as opposed to being like, tower card, burn it to the ground. Like, it's
That's a great question. I think it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the trust. Like, I have to trust that there is a bigger plan, that there is, if it's not this person, then it's somebody better. If it's not, this timeline, then it's something that's in alignment with me that's better. And looking back, I mean, that was 2 years ago, and the growth, like you were saying, that I have gone through is like insane. And I could have never done that if I had stayed with this partner. So looking back on that experience also helps me trust moving forward, because I now know that really was meant to happen. It really was supposed to go down like that, because I would never have experienced half of the things I got to experience in the last 2 years if that hadn't happened. I learned a lot about myself also in that time frame. So really, I know it just comes down to trust and to having that faith that my spirit team has my back, and the universe or God or whatever you believe in has your back ultimately for your highest good. So I mean, that's the biggest thing, is you just have to have that trust and that faith that you're going to get through those tough moments and come out better and stronger than you were, even if it sucks when it happens. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, that was like, it was one of the hardest things I'd ever gone through. But I looking back, I wouldn't change how it went down, at all.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it's there's always a timeline somewhere that's corresponding to where you want to go and how you want things to go, and or not even how you want things to go, how they're going to go, irregardless of how you want them to go. And how does it work? Because I have had, what changes a timeline from like shifting, right? Because I remember a week before my breakup happened, I had a reading, and she was like, he's very confused. Like he's, but like, and you guys are going to move in together, but it's not going to be on the timeline that you expect. He absolutely fucking loves you. You guys are good. You're going to stay. Like, this whole reading of like, our relationship is fine. He's just confused with his life. And then like a week later, I like called this lady back, and I was like, okay, excuse you. He just broke up with me out of the blue. No one saw it coming. He didn't even see it coming. It was the weirdest fucking thing that just happened. And then I ended up getting into this accident. She's like, there was no negative energy. And I was like, lady,
yeah,
wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like free will choices of anyone involved can shift things drastically. That's what I've seen. Your free will choices, your choice to even get a reading at that time, and having that awareness that like he was confused could have shifted things as well. And then his free will choices, any little thing can shift the timelines. Ultimately, I do think that there are little milestones that we have to hit, like as a soul, but the majority of things in our lives, I do feel like, are controlled by free will. So that's the biggest thing that will push or pull a timeline, I think.
Yeah. And that makes sense, where it's like any person, it's like, no matter what, they're going to do whatever they want to fucking do.
Yes.
And like, it's like in that moment, of course, with a broken heart, you're like, like your little child comes out and you're like, wait,
Oh,
these
yeah.
stuff a toy and I'm pissed. Like it's like those kind of moments. And then you're like, yeah, but he's also a grown-ass man. And like he is in this journey of his own soul journey, and it's currently not in alignment with yours. So
Right.
accept and move forward. Like it is those kind of things. But I can think of, that initial moment of like, Joanne, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's like, yo,
You said everything was fine.
a little heads up would have been nice, Joanne. What the heck?
I know. And she's like, it is fine. And I was like, it doesn't feel like that
Yeah.
right now. And she's like, he has a changeable mind. And I was like, we're clearly now made aware of that. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I love this. I'm so excited to bring this to my community because I think everyone like
Yay.
learning this stuff, tapping into, plus I really think it makes going through life, which is already fucking hard, a little bit easier because you get to
Absolutely.
connect with your spirit team, and there's people like you that help you connect to that spirit team, whether it's your spirit team, whether it's, ancestors, things of that nature, understanding yourself more. And I think connecting with women like you, where it's like, my thing for self-development and things of these natures, not getting obsessed with it, because some of us can dive in and then it becomes our only safety goat. And then we become so fucking me focused and we forget life is actually existing outside of this. And I love that you were talking about it's a holistic thing. It's like, it's not that like, we're looking at just this one thing. It's like, let's clean up your energy in your life. Like, let's get you resourced. Let's get you out there. And like, that's what I'm taking from this, where it's like, you get to connect. You're not alone in this world. And there are ways to navigate situations to get you where you want to go by taking this holistic approach. So your work is absolutely extraordinary. I am
Thank you.
so freaking happy that we connected. This is such
oh my
a good
gosh. Me too. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast. It's been such a nice, like, flowing conversation too. I love it.
Oh, perfect. Is there any last words? Anything that's on your heart that you feel like the community needs to hear from you?
No, I think the biggest thing is just that trust, and have a little faith that it will work out, even if you can't see it right now. Holding that trust that, you are being guided, is really huge, I think, especially when you're going through tough times. And I know lots of people are going through it right now. So just, hanging on to that.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. How can these gorgeous humans on the internet come connect with you, get a reading with you? I'm definitely going to tell my best friend to call you. Oh my God, it's 222 right now, which are my angel numbers.
Gosh, amazing. So people can find me on my website, which is etherealjack.com. I do have a 20% off discount code right now for anybody that's listening. It's code podcast. And then I am on TikTok under Ethereal Jack, Facebook under Ethereal Jack, and then Instagram is Ethereal Jack YT. And yeah, that's it.
Perfect. We'll put that all in the show notes. And thank you so much. Anyone that's listening, make sure you subscribe for new episodes every single Monday. Plus, that really helps us get awesome guests like Jackie on our podcast. And it means the frickin' world. So use those sexy thumbs of yours. We love you. And we'll see you in the next episode.